What's going on, everybody? I'm Henry Hill, and me and Uncle Logan here are back for Cinephellas.com, and we are here to talk about what is on everybody's mind this weekend. It's the premiere of the first Marvel Universe show on Disney Plus, the all-new WandaVision, starring Elizabeth Olsen as Scarlet Witch and Paul Bettany as Vision.
And together they make WandaVision. Woo!
WandaVision.
Holy torpedo.
Easy there, Viz.
Yeah, we were talking about this on The Mandalorian, how we're going to be talking about the next show we're going to be reviewing, talking about is WandaVision. And we haven't had anything in the Marvel Studios, Marvel movies in over a year now. I think we had the superhero fatigue there for a while, but I'm ready to dive back into these characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And the show is definitely unique in its own way and something I didn't know what to expect. So the setup of the show, we have Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany. It's like the 1950s. It's a throwback to the golden era of television. I Love Lucy, The Dick Van Dyke Show, Bewitched. A lot of the
Honeymooners,
classic Honeymooners, yeah. A lot of shows that I remember watching with my grandma, like reruns and stuff with the cheesy comedy and the laugh track. Where was the live audience back then? And, just a lot of classic shows. So we get to see these characters, and it's really unique and awesome the way that it starts off.
I agree. Yeah, it really has the look and feel of one of those classic shows. Like if you were watching it today and you had no reference of what it was and you just walked in the room, you'd be like, oh, this looks like a really cleaned up version of a 1950s show showing family life in that era. But instead in this, we have, of course, our Marvel characters that we already have been introduced with Scarlet Witch and Vision. And we see them like as a couple together in suburbia, basically, in 1950s. She's wearing a dress very reminiscent of the 50s time. They used the same kind of language and dialogue that they used back then. It's very lighthearted. The jokes are cheesy. It just goes back to that innocent era back then when, there wasn't so many problems looming over everybody. Everybody wasn't connected in on social media. It's just a more simpler time, and each of these first two episodes, which are episodes 1 and 2, which premiered this weekend on Disney Plus. The first episode, we're kind of introduced to their home life, Wanda and Viz, and the story is kind of set up as they have a calendar up on the wall, and they see a heart on the date of the 23rd. And both of them kind of look at each other and they know there's something special about this day, but they can't remember what it is exactly.
Yeah, and then it sets up the rest of the episode with Paul Bettany, Vision going to work and introducing him in the office setup back in the 1950s. And there's a lot of jokes about he's like a human computer. He's like, no, I'm not. And like just a lot of funny comedic bits in that episode or in that scene in the office. Which eventually brings his boss and wife over to their house where Vision and Wanda are making dinner, and it's hilarious.
Yeah, there's a lot of silly moments where Wanda's using her magic to get the dinner together. It's taken a while, and there's a lot of ruckus from the kitchen because she's, dropping pots and pans. and meanwhile, the boss is really edgy. He's like, "We're hungry here. What are you doing here, Vision? You're losing it here. You're losing it. You're not going to get the big promotion here. Where's supper?" He's like really pushy. It's kind of silly, but you could totally see this happening on one of those sitcoms back in the 50s. It's reminiscent of that. There's like it's a problem, but it's like a silly problem going on, but it's like revolves around the whole episode of them trying to, get this dinner ready and really impress the boss and his wife, and have Vision.
Everything goes wrong.
Yeah, everything goes wrong. It's pretty funny. It's silly how it's set up. And also during this episode, we have the neighbor, Agnes. Yeah, so we were introduced to the next door neighbor, and she's just meeting Wanda for the first time in this eepisode, and they hit it off. It's played by Catherine Hahn, who we've seen in a lot of movies. Really enjoy her as an actress. Yeah, Step Brothers is the main one. She's very fun. And she also fits in very well to this, era, I thought, too. She looks the part, and she provides some good comic relief, on the backdrop of making dinner in there, where she brings over a bunch of fixins for supper, and she sort of saves the day because Wanda really doesn't know how to make a big fancy dinner.
No, she doesn't. So she ends up making breakfast, Brenner, as we call it, and brings it in. But yeah, Catherine Hahn is hilarious in this episode and the first two episodes. I just love her character as the quirky, she has like the voice too of like the 1950s. Like, you can't believe that guy did this to me. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but it has the pitch to it. And I thought her character was really great introduction to her character and how she's helping out Wanda. And eventually they make, breakfast for the boss and the wife. And the wife is Kitty from that 70s show.
Yeah.
Whatever her name is.
Deborah Jo Rupp. Yeah.
Deborah. Okay, there you go. And she's really great.
Yeah. She is. She's great too. She fits in perfectly. Any era, really. We've seen her in the 70s already. You could totally picture her as a housewife in the 50s. And yeah, she plays Mrs. Hart, the boss's wife. She's very nice and like accommodating, more, she's not on edge like the boss is, but the boss is just like, come on, my wife's getting hungry here. Are you going to come through or not, Vision? He's very pushy. But of course, eventually Wanda, with the help of Agnes, gets the dinner ready, and Vision's trying to entertain them as she's making dinner, and he brings out a little, I think it's a ukulele.
Yeah.
He starts singing. Yeah, he starts having a sing along with the song Yakety Yak. So he just starts going. He starts playing the ukulele on the couch and stuff. It's a really funny comedic bit from him. And then all of a sudden, just dinner appears at the table just in the nick of time, right when the boss is about to leave. Things are about to go south. Finally, dinner appears on the table. So they all sit down and gather. They pour some wine out and toast to that. And things are going relatively well once the dinner comes. But then all of a sudden, there's another problem. The boss starts choking.
Yeah. And he's like actually choking for a while. And they're like just sitting there watching this happen. And Vision, dives in and helps him. And it was pretty funny.
Yeah. He kind of reaches through his throat magically, pulls out the piece of meat, and saves the day. The boss is okay. And it's funny because after that, they kind of just ignore the part where he was just choking. They're like, well, that was great. Hey, we'll talk about that on Monday, won't we? Yeah.
Everything went swell tonight, didn't it, Vish?
Yeah.
Oh, like just that didn't happen,
Right.
And yeah, remember the awkward questions they were asking Wanda and Vision? Like, where are you from? Like, when did you get married? They're like, when did we get married?
Yeah, exactly. Because Wanda, this is all we're assuming, and I mean, I think it's pretty much confirmed that this is going on in Wanda's head because, as we know from the previous Marvel comic universe, Vision has died. So this is kind of Wanda's fantasy going on in her head, and we see glimpses of that throughout. So yeah, they're asking Wanda questions, and she really doesn't know. She doesn't have a story because this probably really didn't happen. This is all a concoction, and she hasn't thought about those details in this fantasy yet. So they really didn't have any answers there, which I thought pretty interesting, right?
Yeah, I was going to say then it leads to the end where you see some computer screen monitors, and you see the little logo for Sword, and what you were saying about Sword.
Sword is from the comics, and the acronym, which has recently been amended, stands for Sentient Weapon Observation Response Division. So basically, there's another shadowy organization, much like S.H.I.E.L.D. in the previous films in the Marvel comic universe, which they're observing what is going on with Scarlet Witch in her head. So somehow they're tuned into what's going on, and you also hear their voice. I think during both episodes, like Wanda, you hear their voices coming from a radio. We're assuming, and they're kind of trying to get into Wanda while she's having this grand vision or delusion or fantasy, as you'd call it.
Or dream, yeah. We're not sure. It just kind of makes you question what exactly is going on. Try to put the pieces together, but I'm sure as they go further into the season, it'll start to make more sense. But the pilot first episode really kicked it off. It was totally unique, something I didn't expect to be that good, but I had a really great time with it. I laughed a lot. I was smiling a lot. I felt for these characters. I felt like I was in a 1950s show. everything, set design, costume design was really well done, really depicting that period of time, and definitely nods to old TV shows like Bewitched and Dick Van Dyke and Honeymooners. It really had a great vibe to it, and also making me have some questions as to what's happening really to Wanda, and we'll figure that out throughout the course of the series.
Yeah, it was a very unique way to usher in this new phase of the Marvel comic universe. It's totally unique. We haven't seen anything like it before. It makes you question, like, like you said, what's going to happen? How's all this going to tie into the future of the Marvel universe? What's really going on here? Is this fantasy going to lead to something where Wanda is going to try to bring Vision back for real? We don't really know what's going on. What is Sword? There are a lot of questions we have. Moving forward. Another thing that we should mention with the first and second episodes is during the episodes, they also had the small kind of like commercial breaks that you've had during the TV shows. And we see a fake commercial for this toaster. I can't remember the exact name that they used.
Toastmate, I believe.
Toastmate 1000. Yeah, it had, it's a special toaster. And it's like a real commercial from that time. It has this guy introducing it and talking about the toaster, what it all can do, and then at the end we see that it's actually made by Stark Industries. So we saw that cool little Easter egg in there, and we also see another one of these commercials in the second episode. So moving forward, if the first two episodes are showing us anything, we're probably going to get more of these as the episodes go on and as they change decades and eras, which we've seen from some of the pictures and stuff. It looks like we're going to start moving into some other decades and eras. So we're going to see their kind of relationship grow on, and we're going to see them and eventually move on from black and white to Technicolor.
Absolutely. Yeah, the trailers, it looked like they're in the 70s and then older. But yeah, they're going to go to the different eras. And I'm kind of wondering if, the Easter eggs, or is that going to tie in some way to Stark Industries and the second episode with the commercial? I don't want to say until we talk about it, but I wonder if that actually ties into the show. It has some sort of meaning behind all of this. So it's a very mysterious show, very unique, and didn't expect, the first episode to be like this, but I had an absolute blast with it. So I'm going to give the first episode of WandaVision a 4.5 out of 5 Vision hair pieces.
And I am going to give this episode, which I really enjoyed too, is very unique, unlike anything we've seen yet. A very strong episode. I can see how some big fans of the Marvel comic universe would be thrown off by it, but I am impressed with what it's trying to do here. It's trying to do something totally different. It's presenting the Marvel comic universe in a more sitcom approach, and we're seeing it in the lens of 1950s, and I think it's really cool. Everything looks great, spot on. So I am going to give the pilot episode of WandaVision a 4 out of 5 WandaVision hair pieces.
The second episode premiered on Disney Plus tonight as well for WandaVision, and this is totally a nod to Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie. Especially the intro had the old Bewitched cartoon in black and white, cartoon, and just really cool animation for the setup of this. And this episode is focused around this talent show that they're having in town, with Wanda being introduced to the local wives in the neighborhood, and some are cool, and there's always that snooty bitch, neighbor that we don't like that Wanda gets introduced to, and then it sets up Vision. He goes like a neighborhood watch.
Neighborhood watch, yeah, because if you remember in the beginning of the episode, they're in bed, in separate beds, which is kind of funny, which is kind of how they'd show it back in the day on TV. Separate beds. Leave it to Beaver. Parents aren't sleeping in the same bed, boys. Don't get any dirty thoughts.
Don't beat the beaver tonight there, Ward.
Yeah. And they, of course, have their standard 1950s pajamas on, complete with the hats and stuff that you'd wear in bed, tucked into perfectly made beds and everything. And they hear a noise coming from outside, and it kind of frightens both of them. So, Vision, it kind of gives him the idea like, oh, we need to get some better security in the neighborhood. So that kind of spawns him into going into the neighborhood watch meeting along with the other fellas in the neighborhood.
Yeah, and that really shows Paul Bettany's comedic chops too. He was really funny, unintentionally funny when he goes to the neighborhood watch. And they give him a piece of gum, and it gets like lodged, and he's
It
all like,
gums up the works.
yeah. You see like the gears inside of his body with the gum going through it. And he's just like really funny. I wasn't expecting that. Like he's not really a funny actor. Then it goes back to Wanda at this get together for the women in the neighborhood talking about the talent show, and some weird shit happens.
Some very weird things happen there, yeah. And we're also introduced to a couple new characters there. You mentioned the snooty lady that's kind of in charge of the neighborhood. She's like the big rich lady that never has to work in the neighborhood, that has time to put on these big fundraisers and talent shows in the neighborhood and things like that.
Right.
So and she right away is kind of annoyed with Wanda, and also Wanda meets. She not only goes there with Agnes, but we're also introduced to Monica Rambeau, or Geraldine, as she's called in this universe, who we've seen before. She is from Captain Marvel. So another tie into the Marvel comic universe. Her character, played by Teyonah Parris, shows up, and her and Wanda strike it off in this episode as well. So Wanda has found another friend, an ally in the neighborhood, at least in this, and it kind of plays to the backdrop of this, meeting they're all having in the neighborhood, where they're all, dressed up fancy, drinking lemonade, and all the women in the neighborhood are coordinating, while at the same time the guys are at the neighborhood watch meeting, and they're all meeting. So Paul Bettany meets his neighbors. One or two of the guys, actually two of the guys he works with, so he already knows them at the meeting. But then we're also introduced to a couple other male characters in the neighborhood too. And like you mentioned, he plays it funny unintentionally. He's kind of aloof with how he is, because he's tried this gum and like a machine, the gum has gummed up his gears, so to say. So he's acting really off and strange.
He's acting like drunk, kind of drunk,
Yeah.
Like, you can't walk or anything. And he's
like a drunk robot, and it's pretty funny.
Yeah, and it sets up some really funny scenes of them trying to do these tricks, and everybody in the crowd is just like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like he's doing a terrible job.
So basically, they're going to have this talent show, and Scarlet Witch and Vision are playing the magician and the magician's assistant. They have this cabinet where Scarlet Witch is going to go in, and Vision is going to make her disappear in this cabinet. But things go wrong because he's ate the gum and he's acting really weird on stage. So during the whole thing, it's everything's going totally wrong. Eventually, they save it by him, or I guess her, transporting Geraldine into the box. So when they say abracadabra and open the door, she's in there, like, hey, and everybody claps, and everybody thinks it's real great, and like it was purposeful that they were doing all this crazy magic. And I think he's also looking for his top hat to pull out the rabbit, and it just sort of appears and runs. Real silly.
Yeah. A lot of silliness to it. That's why it reminded me of like Bewitched, like silly stuff that would like pop up, like the way they edited it. Like when they didn't have rings on, then they had them on, it would just be like this, like in Bewitched, like with their nose.
Yeah. And then like the magic dust.
The magic dust, the little stars.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of nods to that, but I loved it. It gave it a really great atmosphere for this episode. A really feel good, comedic, fun episode, minus a few parts, I guess, towards the end. But there was another commercial, how we were talking about the first episode 2. There is a watch commercial for Strucker that appears with the Hydra logo. Hydra is like the military subversive organization bent on world domination.
Right. We've seen that throughout the films. We've seen it in Captain America first, and then moving forward with, of course, Red Skull and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, if anybody out there has been following the MCU, like most people of the world, you know what Hydra is, but it's in the commercial with the watch in episode 2. So I thought that was pretty cool. Another Easter egg. Again, it could be something that ties into the show somehow. Maybe they're behind, between Hydra and Sword, they're behind all of this. Who knows? But
right. I wouldn't be surprised if they're working together in some way. Everything, I'm sure, is going to play into how everything shapes up. I'm sure everything has a meaning. I was going to mention something new that we saw in episode 2 that I think that is going to stay with the show moving forward, is the introduction of colors. Like when we saw The nosy neighbor, the annoying lady, cut her hand. We saw bright red blood. So we saw that. We saw her cut and bleeding. Yeah. So it kind of reminded me of Sin City in that way, where they showed something most in black and white, but then they showed color to like really highlight the dramatic part.
Yeah, that, and then the scene with the helicopter, which I'm not 100% sure what that means. I have my theories, I guess, but I'm not going to go too much into that for people that haven't seen it yet. But another scene with the color of red and yellow, which is color of Iron Man as well.
Right.
But
yeah, very interesting. Yeah, wasn't there? I think there might have been a sword symbol on that too, if I remember.
Yeah, I think there was. Yeah, so there's a lot of meanings. There's a lot of ways that they can tie this in with characters. It's hard to say. I have my predictions, but we'll have 7 more episodes, so we'll find out some more answers. But right now, it's very mysterious, and a lot of people have their theories, and nobody really knows what's going on with the show.
Exactly. Yeah, I like how in the first 2 episodes, it introduces you to everything, but it doesn't really give you too many answers. It teases you just enough that you're going to tune in for the next several weeks to watch the rest of the episodes. But no, I don't think anybody's has it figured out yet. So that's very intriguing to me. And yeah, well, we also saw another, just like in the end of the first episode where we saw a glimpse of Sword. In the second episode at the end, we see another glimpse. And this one I thought was even more there was more mystery with this one. It's a character dressed in like a beekeeper outfit coming out of a manhole. And we see that, he's a Sword member of some sort. And he's communicating, obviously, with the people that were watching in the first episode. So what's going on here now that they're actually in this world? We see a member of Sword. Are they going to be able to come interact with Wanda and Vision in this? Or it's kind of something that I'm wondering about moving forward.
Yeah, or they're just controlling her mind, and she's in this dream fantasy, and they're controlling all this. Yeah, I don't know. But it was definitely weird, and something I didn't predict with that guy coming out of the manhole. The beekeeper, I'm like, what?
There are even bees swirling around his head, too.
Yeah, which is funny.
Yeah.
And that was another scene with the colors changing. Is they revert back into the house, and they kind of turn into the colors that we know from the Avengers. Right. So that's where they kind of ended, and then leaving us with more questions. What happened? What this has to do with this character coming out of the manhole, and what it all means for the future of the season. 7 more episodes, 9 total this season.
Me too. Really looking forward to the rest of the episodes. We're going to get 1 a week from here on out, which is okay. I mean, it gives us some time to sort of talk about things and digest. I mean, sometimes I think the binge method's great, but at the same time, it leaves less time to talk about it with, because people are either watching them all at once or somebody hasn't seen them, so you can't talk about it. This way, it gives people a week to watch it. By the time everybody's watched it, then you can talk about it and kind of theorize yourself and kind of try to talk through it and see if you can guess what's going to happen next. My thoughts moving forward, I think with the color palette change towards the end of the second episode, I wouldn't be surprised within the next episode or 2 if they're going to just go into the Technicolor era, move on to a different kind of era moving forward, just from the pictures we've seen where it's going to go into color. We've seen some pictures where they're at some sort of Halloween party, it looks like, where Wanda's dressed as the devil. So we're gonna see some more of that. So yeah, I'm very intrigued. I'm gonna be reading more moving forward, trying to put everything together. I've read a couple interesting articles that have clued me in on what's going on a little bit more. And I can't wait to see where it goes from here. And another great episode, I thought. I'm invested. Like I said, everything's unique. It looks great. I can't wait to see where it goes and how it's going to go all the way up until the end. And then we already know that we're going to see Scarlet Witch in Doctor Strange 2 and that sort of multiverse. So it's obviously going to lead into that somehow, where are we going to see Scarlet Witch angry and like just unleashing hell with all her powers? It's very intriguing.
Yeah, there's so many questions. It's so mysterious. We don't have a lot of answers. We have theories. All around, just well written. Really great episode too. I enjoyed episode 2. They had a lot of comedic bits, a lot of funny scenes, a lot of great scenes of Paul Bettany showing his comedic chops. Again, the camera work and music and all that was really great. Catherine Hahn, great again. introduction of some new characters in the show, and I'm definitely interested to see where this goes and how it all intertwines, if it does, with MCU. But I really, like this episode a lot. With that being said, I'm going to give episode 2 of WandaVision a 4 out of 5 Elizabeth Olsen hair pieces.
And I'm going to give episode 2 of WandaVision a 4 out of 5 Vision hair pieces. Oh, my works are all gummed up.
Yeah, so that being said, we had a great time with WandaVision. Didn't know what to expect with this series. The first 2 episodes on Disney Plus that premiered today. I went in with an open mind. I had a great time with it. A lot of great aspects to it. Love the nods to old TV shows from the 50s. The golden era of television reminded me much of growing up watching reruns with my grandma, watching Nick at Night, and watching these TV shows. And I thought it was something completely different, something I didn't expect from the MCU, Marvel Studios. And it has my interest, and I can't wait to see where it goes and if it answers a lot of the questions we have.
Yes, I am. I agree. I'm in agreement with everything that you just said. I think Jack Schaefer, the creator, they've created something special here. It's a nod to that 50s kind of era so far in what we've seen. It's a whole new approach to the Marvel Universe in a sitcom format, which is refreshing. We've seen nothing but action and kind of the same kind of tone throughout. This refreshes everything. After we mentioned in the beginning where it's been a year since we've seen anything from Marvel, I think this is a great way to slowly get us into the next phase of things. It's a great introduction for Disney Plus moving forward. We're going to get a lot more Marvel Comic Universe shows moving forward. So I think this one's a great one to get us going. We don't really know a whole lot about these characters. Wanda, it's not like Wanda and Vision were the main characters of the Avengers universe. So I think it's pretty cool to show these characters that weren't used a tremendous amount in those films, but moving forward, they're going to be major players moving forward. And I think it was very well done, very nicely directed episodes by Matt Shakman. I look forward to going into the new eras with these characters and see how crazy things are going to get before it all ends.
It just gets all trippy on us when they go to the 70s with all the hippies and stuff.
There's an episode where Vision and Wanda try acid for the first time. Ooh, this is groovy.
Groovy. Oh, man. What I was going to say with Wanda or Scarlet Witch and Vision, they're the 2 characters of the Avengers I didn't really know much about. I don't know their backstories. They're kind of in the backseat throughout the movies. They weren't really focal points. I mean, they had some big parts, but they're not like the main characters that you watch, right? So It's going to be interesting. Maybe we get more of a backstory of these characters, but right now I'm really intrigued.
Absolutely, yeah. Like I mentioned, it sets things off in a great new way. I'm excited. I love everything I've seen about it so far, and this is a great view of the future, so to say, and what we're going to get from Disney Plus moving forward and Marvel Universe moving forward. So with all things said, I think that wraps it up for our review of the first 2 episodes of WandaVision that were shown on Disney Plus. If you guys haven't seen them, please watch them. It's worth getting Disney Plus now, especially since you're going to get the first 2 episodes right away, and then we're going to get 1 a week moving forward. So you'll definitely have something to watch if you're a Marvel fan. Even if you weren't a Marvel fan, I think these episodes are strong enough. Like even if you're a fan of just like a lighthearted sitcom, you'd like just enjoy the quirkiness of it. I think it'd be a nice introduction into just getting into something within Marvel Universe, even if you don't like comics. It's kind of like that. But that being said, stay tuned. Moving forward weekly, me and Logan here are going to be doing a review every week of the new episodes. We can't wait to talk about more with you guys. If you guys have anything to add or mention the things that we didn't mention, because we watch all these films, so we miss things just like everybody else. We're not claiming to be experts on this at all. So if you can think of something and that we didn't mention and points that we didn't make, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below, or give us pointers on what you want to hear from us moving forward, like talking about things that we didn't mention during this review. So with that said, until the next episode of WandaVision next week, I'm Henry Hill.
And I'm Elizabeth Olsen. Hi.
Oh, Viz, you're so dreamy.
Thanks for watching, boys. Can't wait to come back and see you wild rascals in a few weeks in the next episodes of WandaVision.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers. And Uncle Logan too. Gee!